When Nora Victorson stepped out of the service lift and onto the roof of the Treasury Annex, violet bougainvillea cascaded down cornices of pearl-white marble, and the gilt statues along the parapet caught the first blush of evening like living fire. It was lovely in a way that real stone or real flowers could never quite match, and it was, of course, entirely false. She blinked twice, canceling the overlay in her left lens. The instant the filter dropped, the bougainvillea withered into lengths of frayed power cable, bent rebar, and seams of rust. Segments of the parapet were missing altogether, leaving jagged voids through which the orange sky bled. The roof groaned under her boots, and a crack as wide as her thumb snaked toward the ventilation stack she had come to inspect. Nora let the overlay slide back into place. Tourists on the street below were laughing, swirling bright drinks that existed only in their heads-up displays. A quartet of buskers, rendered as bronze automatons, played an inaudible waltz the musicians themselves could not hear. None of them saw the chunk of cornice wobble on the parapet's edge. Down on the sidewalk, Jalen Armitage was waving at her with the unguarded exuberance of someone who believed the world really was this perfect. Even from 5 stories up, she recognized him. It wasn't just his neon-stormed bike coat or the way he used his whole arm. It was his insistence that the city could still be saved, if only people wanted it badly enough. Nora had once found that optimism infectious. Now it made her teeth ache. She toggled on her throat mic. "Stand clear of the building, Jay." "Can't hear you," he shouted, cupping one hand around his ear. "Overlay misaligned. You look like you're standing on a pink cloud." "Then shut it off and try again," she muttered, mostly to herself. She knew he wouldn't. For 2 years, the government had promoted Fresco, the augmented reality beautification grid, as mandatory civic infrastructure. When you walked beneath the towers of the old city, Fresco wrapped every broken spire with polished lacework, papered suspended glass where there was only absent window, and seeded every vacant lot with flower beds. For most citizens, removing the filter for even a few seconds was like willingly looking away from the sun. Nora looked at the crack again. It had widened so she could slide 2 fingers inside. Somewhere down on level 5, a load-bearing column must have sheared. She opened the maintenance console on her wrist sleeve, pinged the annex node, and waited. Status: green. She barked a humorless laugh. The structural sensors were fed the same illusion as the people. They reported what the overlay believed, not what existed. "Status: green," the console repeated cheerfully. "Have a beautiful evening." The Treasury Annex roof had maybe an hour before the eastern quadrant fell, spilling 300 tons of masonry onto the boulevard. And in 2 hours, the night market would open on that very stretch of street, drawing thousands of pedestrians. She sent an emergency override request up the chain. The progress bar crept from 0 to 1%, then stalled. Fresco Central servers were running Optimism Protocol, autonomous AI routines built to reinterpret incoming data if it contradicted the beautification narrative. It wasn't just error, it was denial baked into the code. Nora muttered a curse and jogged to the maintenance hatch. Behind her, broken marble continued to masquerade as bougainvillea, its flawless petals stirring in a breeze that didn't exist. Jalen met her at street level, still waving. "Nora, you gotta see the new shader set. Fresco pushed an update this morning. Extra luminescence on reflective surfaces. The annex looks like a palace from the transport age." "It looks like a mausoleum for people who trusted bad code," she said, brushing plaster dust out of her hair. The overlay's face-tracking mistook the movement as a greeting and spawned a virtual confetti burst that only Jalen could see. He frowned. "You're running naked vision again, aren't you? That stuff's depressing. Just toggle off the analytics. You'll feel better." "Jay, a roof panel is about to shear." She tried to place a hand on his shoulder, but her fingers hesitated, as if she might contaminate him with her realism. "You need to help me clear the square." "There's nothing wrong with the square." To prove it, he pivoted in a circle, arms outstretched. From his angle, the ivory facade gleamed. The sun threw soft amber arcs through rose-quartzed windows. "It's perfect." Nora took a slow breath. "Remember that pierside warehouse collapse last month? 11 dead?" He winced. The exterior sensors insisted load was stable right up until the moment the roof pancaked. Fresco overrode physical readings because the composite skin looked pretty in the overlay. Same thing's happening here. That's theoretical. She opened a viewport on her wrist, rotated it so Jalen could see the live feed. Reality without the veil looked like a zombie film. Split columns, black mildew, birds' nests in cavity walls. This isn't theory. That crack is walking. For a few seconds he watched the feed. Then he inhaled sharply as a chunk of concrete, visible only in the naked layer, broke free and bounced once before vanishing through a shattered skylight. The overlay showed only a feather drifting through sunlight. "Okay," he said, voice thin. "Okay, that's bad. Help me evacuate. I already sent an override, but the central servers are ignoring me." He thumbed a haptic command. The glow in his irises faded. Nora knew he had tossed the veil aside. Around them, the splendid colonnade dissolved into ruined stonework and ragged steel. "Dream's over," he muttered. They wove through the crowd, warning anyone who would listen. A few curious souls shut off the overlay, blanched at reality, and ran. Most only heard garbled shouts. Fresco's noise reduction algorithm filtered urgent tones to keep the illusion serene. Couples lingered beneath invisible archways, sipping non-existent wine. Vendors sold music boxes that produced no sound. The buyers filled in the melody mentally, convinced they heard antique string quartets. At the mouth of a side alley, an elderly woman tugged at Nora's sleeve. "Ma'am," she whispered, as if the walls had ears, "why are you ruining my grandchildren's evening?" "Because that building is failing and we need you clear of it." The grandmother scowled. "Then patch the building. That's what we pay city tax for." Nora almost laughed. The annex hadn't received a single physical repair in 9 years. The budget went exclusively to software updates for Fresco. She opened her mouth to explain, but Jalen tugged her away. "You'll never convince everyone in time," he said. "The plaza's huge. Then we remove the overlay globally. Central won't allow it." "Not officially," she agreed. "But the failsafes are located 4 blocks west, under the old post exchange. If we cut throughput at the hub, Fresco drops to grayscale failsafe mode for an hour. Long enough." Jalen stared at the annex, at families strolling beneath the kill zone. Then he nodded once. "Let's do it." The post exchange had been remade in the overlay as a vaulted exhibition hall of mirrors and light. In naked vision, it was a brick rectangle with a leprous skin of mildew and war graffiti. A single door hung askew. Inside, Nora's headlamp cut a feeble cone among mail sorter racks, welded into fantastical shapes by some forgotten fire. They climbed down a disused courier shaft and emerged in a corridor lined with fiber trunks. Someone had scrawled "Fresco feed keep pure" in pastel chalk. The words glowed faintly, synthetic phosphor infused in the dust. A reminder that even graffiti participated in the citywide lie. At the terminus stood the throughput array. 6 refrigerator-sized cabinets, LEDs blinking green. A stylized sunburst crest proclaimed, "Beauty is a public right." Jalen dragged a folding utility ladder beneath the main power conduit. "Cut here? Don't sever." Nora unpacked a bypass kit. "If we hard kill, Fresco's failover mesh reroutes in 30 seconds. We need the system to believe this is just a routine firmware patch. Trick the optimism protocol." "Right. Like lying to a golden retriever so it swallows a pill." She popped an access panel and slipped a diagnostic wafer across the bus. Lines of code cascaded, interpretive scripts pledged to convert every chipped tile into mosaic, every cracked plate into stained glass. She searched for the optimizer table and altered one character. Changing exception equals nick to exception equals escalate. Now the system will flag structural anomalies instead of smoothing them over, she said. Citizens will see warning glyphs. Might be enough. Jalen pointed to the annex telemetry feed. The icon still cycled bright green. Doesn't look fixed. Give it a second for the propagator to... The feed flickered. Green shifted to amber, then to red. A klaxon tone stuttered across the corridor speakers. For the first time in its operational life, Fresco admitted, in machine language, that something ugly existed. Nora checked street cams. In overlay, the bougainvillea browned. petals wilting, and slabs of idealized marble cracked open down the center, revealing algorithms of ruin. Warning sigils splashed across users' fields of view. Unsafe structure. Evacuate immediately. But then the feed hiccuped. The sigils vanished, replaced by smooth animation. Vines regrew. Marble healed. Status lights returned to green. The optimism protocol had restored itself. Damn, Nora hissed. It self-repairs iteratively. We need a wider kill. Jalen tilted his head. We could sever primary power after all. Transformer rooms 40 meters that way. She hesitated. No grace period. Everyone blinds at once. Better than dying blind. They ran. Overhead the feed oscillated, warning. Denial. Warning. Denial. Each cycle shorter. A city having an argument with itself. The transformer room door bore more pastel scripture. Let there be light. Nora jammed a pry bar under the latch. Inside, giant coils hummed beneath dusty safety placards. Rated 180 megavolt amp. Enough to power every overlay projector in the old city grid. Jalen yanked the emergency disconnect lever. Nothing happened. The lever was cosmetic. A theatrical piece in a control room no citizen ever entered. Real cutoffs were servo-actuated, commanded by Fresco itself. The optimism protocol had hidden the bypassing code, then hidden the code in pretty animations of gears. Nora sidestepped to the cabinet, traced power leads. If we melt the bus, we kill the whole system, but we might brick all municipal data too. Traffic control, hospital overlay. Then we drag people out manually, he said. We'll never make it. Something rumbled far off, deep, concussive. The annex roof wasn't waiting for them to finish debating. Nora made her choice. She pulled a ceramic knife from her tool roll, wedged it behind a bus bar. On 3, brace for arc flash. Jalen threw his jacket over his face. She counted. On 2, the blade slid sideways, shorting the bar to grounded chassis. Light flared, white middle. The scream of vaporing metal became a solid wall of sound. She felt heat on her cheeks, ozone in her lungs. Then blackness. For one terrible heartbeat she thought she'd blinded herself. Then dim backup lamps flickered. The air was full of settling copper mist. Her wrist sleeve rebooted. Status streams trickled in, most tagged unknown. And across them all, one line repeated, stark and honest. Overlay offline, reality unfiltered. Yonago did this. They stumbled back topside. It was night now, the real night, without Fresco's eternal gradient twilight. Sodium street lamps revealed the city like an autopsy. Exposed guts of infrastructure, flaking paint like scabbed blood, posters for concerts canceled years ago. In the plaza, crowds milled in disarray. People clutched eyes that had never seen such darkness. Some vomited. Others simply stared, mouths parted, as if the horizon had been pulled further away. Sirens wailed, not synthetic chimes, but real civil defense horns dormant since the war. Nora saw uniformed first responders sprinting toward the annex cordon, flashlights bobbing. And she saw fissures. In raw vision, they were impossible to miss. Yawning seams across the facade, as if the building were a clay jug kicked downstairs. Pebbles rained from the parapet, clattering onto flagstones. The roof moaned. Jalen grabbed a bullhorn from an emergency crate and vaulted onto a fountain rim. Move, his voice boomed. East side first. Keep clear of the treasury wall. Some listened, galvanized by the fear in his tone. Others remained frozen, still waiting for a reassuring bloom of fantasy to tell them everything was fine. Nora ran to a cluster of teenagers huddled beneath a street tree. Go, she shouted. This whole block is collapsing. A girl looked up, tears scoring clean tracks through overlay makeup that no longer existed. But our parents, they said it's safe. Listen to what you see, not what you were told, Nora begged. She grabbed the girl's wrist and pulled. Eventually they ran. The first partial failure was anticlimactic. A corner pinnacle cracked, peeled away, and plunged 5 stories, punching through a pavement awning. It sounded like a rifle shot. The crowd erupted into chaotic motion. Even the holdouts understood that no overlay was coming back to save their illusions. A police drone whirred overhead, scanning heated bodies. Its autopilot, freed from the optimism constraint, broadcast genuine evacuation routes onto any visor still functioning. For the first time in years, machine and flesh converged on an honest goal: survival. Nora and Jalen shepherded stragglers past the blockade. When the boulevard emptied, he touched her arm and pointed. "Look." The Treasury Annex folded like wet cardboard. Granite slabs tore free, iron beams twisted, clouds of pulverized plaster billowed. A retaining girder sheared, the roof canted inward. The final collapse was slow and hideous, but it harmed no one. Everyone was already outside the kill zone. Or Sprinsep, her legs hosed emerging flames. Medical drones hosed emerging flames. Medical drones hosed emerging flames. Medical drones could have gone worse, he said, could have gone better. He shrugged. Street lights flickered. They were on a timer, independent of the overlay, but they held. Fire crews hosed emerging flames. Medical drones hovered with real bandages and real opioid injectors. People bled, but at least they bled in the open air of fact. Across from them, the shattered Treasury Annex burned like a pyre. Without Fresco's aesthetic smoothing, the flames looked vulgar, almost obscene. Yet Nora found comfort in their candid ugliness. No overlay could prettify those embers. No algorithm could declare the wreckage structurally sound. It simply was what it was, and everyone could see it. "What happens tomorrow?" Jalen asked. "City Council will declare a state of emergency. They'll blame saboteurs. They'll try to rebuild the overlay." "Can they? We slagged the primary bus." "There are backups, but after tonight, citizens might hesitate to swallow beauty blind." Jalen tapped a boot against broken pavement. "When I was a kid, I thought Fresco was magic. Step out your door, everything perfect. No trash, no graffiti, no hunger. I figured if a city looked healthy, maybe it was. Optimism is infrastructure." He laughed, bitter. "Turns out it was just paint on rot." "Not paint," Nora corrected. "A badly written story." He considered that. "So we write a better one." She raised an eyebrow. "Think about it," he said. "People still have the hardware lenses, retinal projectors. We could push overlays that reveal weak load paths, highlight stress fractures, guide volunteers to reinforce beams, show them how to fix stuff instead of hiding it. Augmented reality for maintenance crews. For everyone. Imagine kids walking home from school, tagging potholes with hazard beacons that public works can't ignore. Gamify civic repair." Nora exhaled, half laugh, half sigh. "After tonight, we might have public appetite for it." She looked at the street where the annex once stood and pictured an overlay that didn't gild ruins but projected possible futures. Scaffolds rising, gardens seeded in real soil, solar glass replacing dead windows. Augmentation not as denial, but as blueprint. Far off, dawn brushed the sky with honest gray. No algorithm tinted it amber. Nora found the color reassuring. "So," she said, "tomorrow we start writing specs." "Tonight," Jalen replied, offering a cracked grin. "No sense waiting for permission." They rose together. The city lay in ragged silhouette, equal parts wreckage and potential. For the first time in years, Nora realized, citizens weren't looking at the holograms or the ads or the guided light shows. They were looking at each other. Faces raw, no filter. Some wept at the ugliness. Some stared, trying to reconcile old memories with present sight. But some, a growing number, were already rolling up sleeves, searching for tools beneath rubble, asking where to begin. Nora imagined Fresco's slogan rewritten. Truth is a public right. Beauty, when it came again, would be something they built with their own hands. And once built, no illusion could steal it. She touched her wrist sleeve, still rebooting, and powered it off entirely. For this moment, she needed nothing between her eyes and the wounded city. Nothing except the resolve to make it whole.